Simons admitted that it was possible someone might be jealous, but he preferred not to think about it. He didn't want to hate anyone. Michael, seemingly impressed with Simons' honesty and character, decided to help him. He showed Simons the letter that had led to his arrest and asked if he recognized the handwriting. Simons studied the letter and said he did not know who wrote it, though the handwriting was neat and clear. He expressed his gratitude to Michael, appreciating his fairness in handling the case. Michael asked Simons to explain the truth behind the accusations. Speaking with sincerity, Simons recounted what had happened. He explained that during their voyage, Captain Josh had fallen ill with a brain fever. The captain was desperate to reach the island of Elba and refused to stop at any other port, which worsened his condition. On his deathbed, the captain entrusted Simons with a final mission. He gave Simons a letter to deliver to a grand marshal on the island, along with a ring that would ensure he was received. Simons promised to fulfill the captain's last request. After the captain passed away, Simons took charge as the ship's mate. He followed the captain's orders, sailed to Elba, and delivered the letter. He met with the Grand Marshal, who gave him another letter to take to Paris. Simons accepted the task, feeling it was his duty to honor the captain's wishes. Once back home, he quickly handled the ship's affairs and went to see his fiancée. Everything seemed perfect. He was about to get married and planned to leave for Paris the next day to complete the task, but before he could, he was arrested. Michael listened carefully and seemed to believe Simons. He acknowledged that if Simons had made a mistake, it was out of loyalty and not intentional wrongdoing. Michael then assured Simons that he could be free if he handed over the letter from Elba and promised to appear if needed for further questioning. Overjoyed, Simons agreed, saying the letter was already taken from him during his arrest. Michael then paused and asked an important question: to whom was the letter addressed? The young man's hopeful expression remained, but Michael's tone hinted at a deeper interest in the letter's details. Michael's calm demeanor shattered when he discovered the address on the letter Simons delivered. It was addressed to Monsieur Maximilien, Rue Coq Caron, Paris. The shock of this revelation left Michael frozen in disbelief. He hastily opened the packet, extracting the letter that had caused his panic, and read it with growing alarm. His expression darkened as he whispered the address to himself, visibly shaken. Simons noticed the change and asked if Michael recognized the name. Michael, struggling to maintain his composure, denied any knowledge of the recipient, brushing it off as the name of a conspirator. Michael's pale face and trembling hands betrayed his inner turmoil, and Simons, confused by the sudden shift in mood, began to feel uneasy. Michael questioned him further, accusing him of knowing more than he claimed. Simons, desperate to prove his innocence, reiterated that he was unaware of the letter's contents and had only seen the address because he needed to deliver it. Michael pressed on, asking if anyone else knew about the letter. Simons firmly denied it, stating that no one except the person who gave it to him was aware. As Michael read the letter again, his mind raced with fear and dread. The letter's content confirmed a connection to Maximilien, a name that could destroy Michael's future. He realized the danger of anyone uncovering this link, as Maximilien was his own father. Michael's fear deepened as he contemplated the potential consequences of this revelation. His behavior became erratic, alarming Simons, who offered to call for help. Michael refused, asserting his authority and demanding Simons remain silent about the letter. After a tense pause, Michael took a decisive action. He approached the fire and threw the letter into the flames, ensuring it was completely destroyed. Simons watched in astonishment as Michael explained that the letter was now gone, leaving only the two of them aware of its existence. Michael urged Simons to deny the letter's existence if anyone questioned him. Grateful for Michael's apparent kindness, Simons promised to follow his advice. Michael assured Simons he would work to minimize his time in custody, asking him to repeat only what he had already shared during interrogation. He emphasized the importance of silence about the letter, framing it as a way to secure Simons' freedom. Michael's calculated demeanor contrasted with Simons' naive gratitude, as the young man thanked him for his help. After ringing for an officer, Michael whispered instructions to the agent, who then escorted Simons out. Once alone, Michael collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed by relief and dread. He realized how close he had come to ruin and lamented his father's past, which threatened his ambitions. But as his despair turned to determination, Michael saw an opportunity to use the situation to his advantage. A sinister smile spread across his face as he resolved to turn the dangerous letter into a tool for his own success. The scene opens with a young man taken by the commissary of police, escorted by two guards. They move through dark, cold hallways that seem to chill the soul. After many twists and turns, they reach a heavy door. The commissary knocks 3 times with an iron mallet, each sound hitting the prisoner like a blow to his heart. When the door opens, he is pushed inside, and it shuts with a loud clang. The air around him is thick and heavy, it smells of confinement. He realizes he is now in a prison. The cell they take him to is neat but has iron bars on the windows. This doesn't frighten him too much because the reassuring words of the deputy, who promised his release, still echo in his mind. He believes he won't be here long. Time passes, and as darkness falls, his hope begins to fade. Every small noise makes him jump, thinking someone is coming to free him, but each time the silence returns and his heart sinks further. Around 10 at night, footsteps echo in the corridor. Light from 2 torches floods his room as the door swings open. He sees 4 guards armed and ready, but he remains calm. When they tell him they've come to take him, he feels relieved, thinking this must be the release promised by the deputy. Without resisting, he follows them outside. The carriage waits, its windows barred like his cell. Inside, 2 guards sit beside him and 2 others sit across. The carriage begins to move, and through the grated windows he sees familiar streets: Rue Cazerie, Rue Saint Laurent, and the port. He notices the glow of Allée Consigne's lights and wonders why such a heavy guard is needed for him. The carriage stops by the harbor, where soldiers form a line leading to a boat. The prisoner is placed in the boat, surrounded by guards as strong rowers push the vessel into the sea. For a brief moment, he feels the fresh air and takes comfort in its freedom, but his joy is short-lived. As they pass landmarks, his mind drifts back to happier times. He sees Ella Reserve, where he was filled with joy that morning, and hears the laughter of a celebration coming from the open windows. It reminds him of what he has lost. His thoughts turn to someone dear to him, a woman whose window glows with light. She is still awake, unaware he is so close yet so far. His heart aches, but pride keeps him from crying out to her. The boat moves further, and they hoist a sail. When he asks where they are going, the guards refuse to answer. One hints at their destination, saying he should recognize it. He looks ahead and sees the shadowy outline of a grim fortress rising from the sea, the Chateau d'If. As the prisoner's heart sinks. He knows this place is reserved for political prisoners. He insists there must be a mistake since he has committed no crime. The guards ignore his pleas. In desperation, he tries to jump into the sea to escape, but they pull him back. The guard presses him down and warns that he'll shoot if he tries to move again. Overwhelmed with despair, the prisoner stops resisting. Though tempted to give in to his anger and frustration, he remembers the promise of the deputy and clings to a faint hope that all will be explained and resolved. For now, he is left powerless, trapped in the darkness of uncertainty. The boat jolted violently as it came to a stop, signaling the end of the journey. Simons felt himself being roughly dragged ashore by the guards holding his arms and collar. Behind him, a police officer followed, armed with a musket. As they moved forward, Simons, feeling like he was in a daze, saw soldiers lined up on the shore. His surroundings were hazy, as if he were in a dream, and he barely registered the heavy gate closing behind him. Even the vast ocean, which separated him from freedom, seemed to blur into the background. After being led into a courtyard surrounded by high walls, Simons heard the rhythmic footsteps of guards patrolling nearby. Their presence felt suffocating as their rifles glinted in the dim light. He stood there for what seemed like an eternity before orders finally arrived. A voice called out for the prisoner, and Simons was pushed forward. He was taken by a sullen-looking jailer into a dark, damp room beneath the ground. The faint glow of a lamp illuminated the bare walls, which appeared stained with tears. The jailer informed him that this was his cell for the night, adding that the governor might change it the next day. He left some bread, water, and straw before vanishing with the lamp, leaving Simons alone in complete darkness. The cold walls seemed to close in around him, and his mind replayed the events that led to this moment. When the morning arrived, the jailer found Simons in the same spot, his face swollen from crying. The jailer tried to engage him, but Simons could only reply with confusion, his voice lifeless. The only request he made was to see the governor, but the jailer dismissed the idea, saying it was against prison rules. The repeated rejection left Simons feeling hopeless, and the day passed in a blur of pacing around the cell. He couldn't stop thinking about how he might have escaped during the journey to the prison. His strong swimming skills could have saved him, and he could have reunited with his loved ones, but now he was trapped, unsure of their fate. The next morning the jailer returned, trying once again to cheer Simons up. Simons, however, was firm in his desire to see the governor. When the jailer refused, Simons threatened to starve himself. Though the jailer softened his tone, he insisted it was impossible to meet the governor. Simons grew more frustrated and even offered money for a message to be delivered to Nova, his love. But the jailer refused, fearing the loss of his job. Desperation overtook Simons, and he threatened the jailer, saying he would attack him with a stool. The jailer panicked, calling for soldiers. Moments later, Simons was dragged down to an even darker dungeon. The thick darkness seemed to swallow him whole, and as he sat in the corner of the cell, his thoughts spiraled. The isolation and despair were overwhelming, and madness seemed to creep closer with every passing moment. Michael hurried back to Sophia's house, where the guests were now in the salon, enjoying coffee after dinner. As soon as he entered, everyone looked at him curiously, noticing his serious expression. The room was filled with questions and remarks, some jokingly calling him a guardian of the state, or asking if another reign of terror was coming.